Let's bow our heads and pray. Padre nuestro que estás en los cielos, gracias por este día que nos has dado, Señor. Gracias porque nos trajiste la lluvia y sabemos que a veces la lluvia, o en muchos tiempos, es una buena bendición, Señor. Gracias por eso. Te damos gracias también por una buena práctica. Te damos la honra y la gloria por eso. Y en esta tarde, en esta noche, te pedimos que nos ayudes a poder entender más tu palabra y poder conocerte un poquito más, Señor. Eso te lo pedimos en nombre de Cristo Jesús. Amén.
Okay, so last week, all right, we're doing a quick recap. What did we cover? Is this on? Yeah, it's on. Okay. All right. Do you guys remember? Yeah, chapter 6. What did we cover?
Just like a summary.
The quick summary.
You know what I was thinking on the way here?
Go for it. What is it?
I couldn't even look up and I wanted to.
Yeah.
What was it? The clean and unclean?
Yeah. We'll talk about that today for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember
The animals? That was chapter 7. Yeah. Yeah.
Because that was the last thing we read. So
Yes, the last thing we read was actually chapter 7 we got into, and then we said, hey, we need to figure out what this clean unclean was. But before that, though, do you guys remember what we talked about? The what's that? Yeah, the Nephilims, yeah, and what they did. And okay, they brought evil into the world. Yeah, so you saw favor in him, right? As far as that he was, what's the word? What's the word? Faithful, yeah. What other characteristics do we have? Faith, right? Righteous, that's the one. Yeah, yeah. So we had all those things, right? So it pretty much, God's trying to tell him, how to actually build the ark. He gave him the actual blueprints, for the ark. And then what else did he actually do besides that? Animals, okay, yeah.
I don't know what he's asking.
You forgot chapter 6?
No, I don't know what you're asking for.
No, it's okay. I just want to see what you guys read. Okay. So we did all that. Okay. And then we started going into chapter 7, right? And we just did like the very first part of chapter 7. And then what did we have? Do you guys remember? We're going to go over it again. But the main thing you guys had was, I think actually homework that I actually had was, if you guys remember 40 days, 40 nights, we'll cover that later on. And the other thing was to be asked was like, I think certain numbers. So I think there was,
7.
yeah, 7 was significant. Who did homework?
I did not.
Dog ate it, right? Gotcha. Dog ate it for
But
sure.
the unclean and
Yeah,
unclean.
he doesn't
though.
even have cat or
That's
dogs.
good. Yeah. So that means that was like most like interesting part. Like that's what like got your attention.
Yeah.
The clean and I think everybody.
Yeah, clean, unclean. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, because then there's like, I think,
Especially since 7 is more like of like the animals and stuff. I don't know. I'm just trying to. 7 or 6?
7.
7, yeah.
7. And
Huh?
what?
40.
40, yeah. Okay. Did you do that? You messed up. All right. So let's get to it then, right? So I think, did you want to start this? Because I think you actually changed the slide on this one. So, also we changed the background. It is now green. We had a request from somebody. Yeah. Oh, no, it was Eric. Sorry. It's right in the middle. Hold on. Give it a second. Okay, so let's get to the next one. All right, so
Hey, I thought we were reading.
we are reading.
Yeah, we're reading the verse. There's
Oh,
a
okay.
verse.
Oh, no, I took it out. I thought we were going to go like in order as far as like
No,
verse
the
for
way
verse.
that you had it was exactly how we were
Oh,
gonna do
it's gone. We're going to go now into it.
Okay. it. So,
All right, so here we
All
go. So this is
what's the
verse
first
1.
verse? So, there's 2 instructions that God gave pretty much. The first couple of verses, and the first one is the Lord said to Noah, "Go into the ark, you and your whole family." So it's him and his wife, his 3 kids, and his kids' wives, his whatever son's wife,
Mhm.
because I have found you righteous in this generation. Okay, so that was it.
So remember we talked about this one, right? Like when you first start a chapter, what's really happening, right? 'Cause remember every time you start a new chapter, something's going to happen. So what in the beginning we're going back and saying, hey, God's found righteousness in the generation, and he's also saying a covenant, right? So God's having a covenant with Noah, and what is he asking in return? Nothing. He just wants to say, hey, I still see a family here that I can actually hold on to. Let me promise you something.
Maybe it's not that he didn't ask for him. Maybe it's because Noah already was giving
Yeah,
that
sure,
to him.
sure. Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, as far as with Enoch and everything else, as far as
No,
being
just
righteous.
being righteous. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, next one.
Okay, you didn't. That's not the one I had.
Oh, yeah, this one?
So I don't know about you guys, but again, I go back to like my youthful self or my young child self when I go to Sunday school, and they always taught us like, oh, the 2 of every kind, 2 of every species went into the ark, and that's what like we stuck with maybe. But sometimes, like, this is a part where the Bible studies really come in handy, where we actually open up the Bible and we read what it really says. And it's interesting that we probably always picture two of every kind, two giraffes, two elephants, two tigers. But if you go to the actual verse, it says, take with you 7 pairs of every kind of clean animal, a male and its mate, and 1 pair of every kind of unclean animal. So to me, it's not like the way I was reading it on when I was studying these verses. It's like it's not necessarily like 2 of every species. It's just 2 of every kind. It's like when you have dogs, how many not species, but like the species of like cats, right? You have like wild cats. You have
No, but even then, like,
domesticated cats.
Cats would be like lions and tigers
That's what I'm
and all kinds
saying,
of stuff
wild
too.
cats.
Yeah, so it's kind of
So-
like very broad. Yeah.
Yeah, so what I'm trying to get to, it's not necessarily like very like 2 tigers, 2 giraffes, 2 this. It's 2 of every kind. It's a grouping of certain kinds. Now, what kind of grouping? I didn't really get into that, but it's just I just wanted to point that out, how we always thought about it as children. Maybe you guys still do, because I did even up to this point. But it's really every kind of animal. And so now we get into the clean and unclean.
Yeah. Okay. So let's skip forward a little bit. So, you have this one still too.
Oh yeah. Well, that's why I left that one at the very bottom, but you moved it up.
Here we go.
So- So if we go back to the verse again.
Yep.
So it said 7, right?
Mhm.
7 pairs.
Yep.
And so again, what does 7 mean? Nobody?
7. Significance of 7. Remember,
No.
if we go back to when do we see 7 in the beginning?
The creation.
Creation. What? And
So-
what? Okay.
So 7 days. So
Yep.
pretty much, if you go back to like I go back to Genesis 1, 2, and 3, they're always going to be very based on everything that you read in the Bible. Like anything that gets preached, you can always relate it back to these 3 chapters. So number 7 gets mentioned in chapter 2, and it says, by the 7th day, God had finished the work he had been doing. So on the 7th day, he rested from all his work. Then God blessed the 7th day and made it holy, because on it he rested from all the work of creating that he had done. So like I wrote here, the author wants us to learn that 7 represents both a whole completed creation. So on the 7th day, that's when he completed it. But it also tells you like the journey, right? Now go to the next slides. So it tells you the journey to that completeness. So in creation, the journey was to go from day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So for us to get to day 7, it takes that journey to get to number 7. So if you go back to the next slide again. Yeah. Yeah, so 7 to me in this particular like verse, it just means a completeness, like a completeness of every kind of clean animal. It's just a complete like set of animals. That's how I interpret it. So, anywho, 7 always wherever whatever you read it, it just means completeness. And what was it again? The journey to completeness.
Okay. Because we're gonna see that again later on,
Yeah.
as far as in the verse, as far as in the chapter, right? As far as 7, either way. So it's kind of like you're saying 7, it becomes the completeness, and then we see 7 again later on, and what is that gonna signify for the next journey, right? So, all right, let's go to the next one. Okay, so this is where you guys will actually start asking a little bit of questions, right? So Genesis on 2 says, take with you 7 pairs of every clean animal, a male and its mate, and 1 pair of every kind of unclean animal, a male and its mate, and also 7 pairs of every kind of bird, male and female, and keep their various kinds alive throughout the earth. So Daisy's talking about the 7 and also talking about the various kinds. So it's kind of like there's, their whole pretty much, like we talked about with the cats, it's not just one thing's a cat. There's actually the tigers, the lions, everything else that go underneath it, right? So what we're going to do is kind of look into pretty much what does clean and unclean actually mean. So here's the first part. Oh no, it chopped it down. Okay, so clean and unclean, then we're looking first at the land animals, right? So for land animals, it says has to be 2 criteria for this one. And so in Leviticus 11:3, so most of chapter 11 of Leviticus, right, is all about the dieting as far as what they would consider to actually eat versus they are not supposed to eat. But they're also giving us the definitions of clean versus unclean. And so that's what we're using here. And so a lot of times when I was talking to Daisy about this last time too, was I think what they're trying to do is like little by little in the chapter, like in Genesis 1, they gave us a good amount of detail and we're like, okay, like we understand what's kind of happening. But then in chapter 2, they give us even more details, right? They give us more vocab terms, more things. And because remember in chapter 1, all we had was just Elohim. Chapter 2, we get Yahweh. Chapter 3, we get a little bit more stuff. So same thing that's happening here. We're getting all the animals get on the ark. Hey, guess what? In chapter 7, we're going to show you that's actually, besides the animals, there's actually clean and unclean animals. They're just giving us more and more details every single time. So
although it may seem like it's repeating the same thing again,
yeah,
it's actually, it is, but it's giving you more detail.
So if in Leviticus verse 3, it says, you may eat any animal that has divided hooves. So you can see on the left side, hooves that pretty much are divided. And that can chew the cud. Do you guys even know what cud means?
No.
Grass? No, that's not what it means.
Weed?
So it's pretty much, it's the way you actually are, what's called taking in whatever you're eating into your system. So like you see cows, every time they actually eat something, they don't just eat it, they just keep chewing and chewing and chewing and break it down. And when it gets into they have a second stomach, they have other things that go back and even like disagree, what's it called? I can't think of the word. Dissolve it even more. And like for us, a lot of times when we chew our food, sometimes we don't even actually chew it all the way down to like its grain. We actually just chew it enough to actually just swallow it and go through. And so that's what happens as far as the cows. They eat it so much that it just gets into tiny little pieces where they actually are able to actually disintegrate a little bit better.
So you're saying that they should have hooves?
Yep.
And
the way they eat it and digest their food.
They need to like make it into really small pieces.
Okay. So if right there, right, you're kind of like, okay, well, what animals could be eaten, which ones cannot? Here you go. Left side, antelope, the cow family. You have all those kinds on the left side, and the right side. You guys talking about last time what are clean and unclean? Here's your clean. This is just land animals. You guys talking about monkeys and dogs? You don't want to eat those things, do you? Monkeys are unclean. I mean, because if you think about monkeys, people say like, oh, monkeys are the same thing as humans. I mean, we're unclean too.
Well, yeah, they always say that pigs were unclean, even for like. That's why they don't use.
They don't eat bacon. Yeah. Yep. So like, there's all kinds of things like that. And if you think about it, like except for there's two criterias. I mean, gorillas, do they have hooves? No. You know.
I mean, even camels too. Like I think of camels. I don't ever think of us or humans eating camels. I think of them using it as transportation.
Yep. That's why even horses are on there too. Horses, zebras. I mean, kangaroos. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff up there that pretty much tells you what is unclean. So when you think about in the ark, when they actually brought in clean, they're telling you, hey, they brought in these ones and they brought in these ones, not just only things you can eat, but everything that can be pretty much used for a future.
So in a way, like it's not that they were unclean where they couldn't be next to them. What? Oh.
We're gonna
I
get
would
there. We're gonna get there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm saying we're just doing land animals.
So you're saying like it's pretty much like God was able. He said because we're gonna wipe everything off. We need to make sure we have the clean animals which you can eat and unclean, which is probably meant for some sort of purpose, like the camels and the horses. Like you still need to have that in your ecosystem.
Yep. Like working. I mean, you're not gonna use the cows to work your fields. I mean, there are certain ones that do it, but I mean, oxes usually do that though sometimes instead. So that's a good way as far as for the land. So you guys are good so far with the land ones? Good land animals? Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, now the sea animals, all right? Clean and unclean sea animals. So we have criterias. And so let's go ahead and read same chapter again in Leviticus, but 9 and 12. So and in verse 9, all the creatures living in the water of the seas and the streams you may eat, any of these that have fins and scales. That's the only ones you can eat. The ones that have fins or scales and scales, yes.
I never knew that there were fish that didn't have fins or scales.
Yeah. Your brother's a fisherman. He knows that stuff.
Sorry. Okay.
All right, 12. Anything living on the water that does not have fins or scales is be regarded as unclean by you. So just rephrasing it, just saying, hey, this, but don't eat it, right? So fins and scales. You guys understand those ones? Okay, so now we're going to look at the ones you can and cannot eat. I was kind of like, okay, maybe I need to take a step back on this one because So the one thing that actually said on the very top on the right side was catfish, and I was like, dang, I actually ate a lot of catfish.
They don't have fins.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gross. But yeah, so everything on the left, all clean. Look, tilapia daisy all at the bottom for you. So you're safe. You're safe. No eating of whales, okay?
Maybe that's why pregnant women can't eat certain fish.
Huh?
That's why maybe certain, like pregnant women can't eat certain
Yeah,
fish.
you can't eat certain fish.
You can't eat Squidward.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wanted to eat Squidward.
But does that make sense so far? So we're getting little by little, right? We're actually getting there, right? We have one more criteria. Actually, there's two more criteria. We're going to get to the fourth one just because it's about insects. But the next one is flying animals. All right. The chickens? There's a chicken for you right there. Okay, so I feel better about this.
Because then it would be kind of weird that a Christian base.
Yeah. Eating chicken. Yeah. Okay. So same chapter Leviticus, but now verse 13 through 19. So here we go. It says, "These are the birds you are regarded as unclean and not to eat because they are unclean. The eagle, the vulture, the black vulture, all these other ones are going to keep talking about. 15 of any kind of raven. 16 what's called horned owl, screeching owl, any kind of those owls, pretty much all the way to 17 owls. So it just keeps
There's
going.
only one type of owls.
There's a lot of owls, yeah. It just keeps going. But and then 19, right? So the story of any kind of heron.
Heron.
Yeah, and yeah, I don't even know that word as far as the hopi. What? Hopo.
Popo.
And a bat, right? So what does that all mean, right? So it's this one actually listed out what you really shouldn't be eating, and a lot of those actual birds are going to be actual like species like Daisy was saying earlier. Those are kind of species that you really shouldn't be eating as far as those the horned owls and all that stuff. So if you just go to the next one. So chickens at the top. You guys are good. You guys keep eating your Chick-fil-A. Yeah, turkey's up there. At the very end, we're all saved. Bro, why would you want to eat parrot? I was like, all right, that's some Salvadorian thing. I don't know what's going on. So, but all those things, right? So are we good so far, right? Clean versus unclean. Do we have a...
What?
My blind cell read Popeyes in one of the peas.
I don't know.
where the peas are at.
Uh-huh.
I'm just seeing the word so blurry. Like where parents inside, I read like Popeyes.
Just hungry. All right, so...
Cane's chicken?
So are we good so far with the clean versus unclean?
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes, go for it. Where's your microphone?
No, where's your microphone?
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, so why do we still eat dirty stuff?
This is under Jewish law.
Why are we reading Jewish law?
That's the whole Bible.
So why are we Jewish?
Why aren't we Jewish? That's the question. So you gotta remember before, Jews actually were just like, yeah. Oh man. So how did we start off originally? Remember, because you remember whenever actually Jesus was up on the cross, right, and everything else, he died for just not the Jews or the Israelites' sins, but he died for also Gentiles. So we're under the Gentiles as far as like we're not really descendants from them.
It's
in a
because like
way.
for me, like I remember too. My mom even says it too. She's like, "Oh man, when I was a little girl, I always thought that I just wanted to be a Jewish because that way I could be saved." But remember that they're supposed to be like this very they have, because they were the chosen. It's a good and a bad thing. But it's like they have more strict rules than the Gentiles. They had to be looked as perfect humanity to us, so that we could follow like what they're doing, or follow. But yeah, because they're more close. They're supposed to be like more close. The way I see it is more closer to God.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what we talked about before as far as the covenant, right? God makes a covenant with Noah as far as in his family. And so right there, there's supposed to be representations of God. Where they go, where they walk around, they have to present themselves as far as in the best example to God, right? Just like all the prophets do the same thing. I mean, everybody in the Bible that we're talking about most of the time is they have to represent themselves. Just like how you guys come up here and you guys are doing worship, same thing. You guys should be pretty much a lot more as far as a reputation than most people sometimes that are just kind of sitting down and everything else, because you guys are doing a lot more when it comes to the word as far as of God.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Good?
That makes
No?
sense.
Okay,
Okay.
Eric.
I'm
Come
gonna
on,
try.
freestyle it,
I'll
Eric,
try.
for us, please.
So, originally, God's plan
Mhm.
was to save the Israelites, right?
That's right.
Right?
Yeah, as far as with Adam and Eve first, and then
Yeah.
it passes down
And
to the
descendants.
Israelites.
So that's
Yep.
that.
He
Well,
chooses
because-
them.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then now because Jesus came,
Mm-hmm.
it like changes everything. So the Jews, they follow that law. Because since
like,
why don't they believe in Jesus?
Or like, why don't we do that?
was okay. So when Jesus was born, like the parents were Jewish and all of the people around him were Jewish.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just because Jesus was born, everybody.
Oh, okay.
Like everybody then was a Christian. Like
So
Well,
you're
I
saying
mean, even like before Jesus, because remember Ruth wasn't like
yeah.
she wasn't a Jewish; she was a Moabite, and so in the Bible, throughout the Bible, you have other cultures that want to be part of what the Jewish follow, but they don't have to specifically follow like rule by rule everything like these you can't eat this and that
so
kind of
the
thing.
thing is with the Jewish is they're just more like strict.
More strict. Yeah. It's just like he was saying, like the good example is like because we're up here, you have a more stricter than maybe like Caleb. I don't know. You know.
No,
I know.
Snitch.
That's the only person I
Just
could think of.
kidding.
I don't know why,
Yeah,
because he
that's
sits in the
fine.
front.
I mean, dude, he's our kid, so he's like 2 years old.
Okay.
But yeah,
Does that kind of?
Yeah, kind of.
are you sure?
I'm gonna look into the Jewish religion.
Go for it. Yeah.
I mean,
they-
that's why they also do like the whole like prayers and stuff like that, and like
Yeah.
it's completely different than.
Yeah, and especially like if you probably were to go out to like Israel anywhere else like that. I mean, if you go look at their cultures, it's going to be completely different than over here. How they actually were to,
what they dress.
what they pray every day, like how they do certain
Are they
things.
still like considered the people that like will be saved anyway, even though they believe
They're supposed to be representing, not that they're
Yeah.
saved. It's like they're supposed to be
they're the core.
they're the
of everything.
what we're supposed to follow, like what we're supposed to mirror. But they've always, like you've seen it, like they keep breaking the rules over. David, he was from I don't know if he was from the Jewish. I think so. No. Sorry, I was thinking. I was thinking of like what tribe he was from, because it gets specific with Jesus, right? But he was a Jewish, and he still broke the law. You see, like so many other stories where they break the law, and so I don't know where I was going with that.
It's okay.
Okay.
All right. So are we good so far then? Clean versus unclean. Everybody understanding. I think from what I take from as far as on verses 2 and 3, I think the Bible is just really just trying to give us more vocab, more terms, because like we said, we looked at earlier, all these things that are coming from is Leviticus, and Leviticus covers so much when it comes to what you're supposed to do, what you're not supposed to do, and there's many verses in there that says if you do this, you're unclean. If you do this, you're clean. And so eventually we're getting to a point when we actually get to Leviticus that we're going to see all that stuff, and later on we're going to go back and be like, oh yeah, we first saw this originally. Yes, Eric? Eric got excited. Go ahead, Eric. Talk to us. You got something, please. Okay.
Wait.
Okay, he's got nothing. That's okay. All right, on to the next one. No further questions? No. Okay, we're good. Okay, so Genesis 4:5. Man, we only got to verse 4 so far. Okay, so 4. So it says 7 days from now. So dates we talked about earlier, 7 days. 7 days from now, I will send rain on this earth for 40 days and 40 nights, and I will wipe from this face of the earth every living creature I have made.
Okay, so going back to number 7, right? Remember we said
Mhm.
7 days is completeness, or what did I say? The journey. So he's giving Noah hey, like 7 days from now. So the journey from right now to like you're supposed to like do all these things. So that's where again, if you remember what 7 days means, then you can kind of have a picture of understanding what he's trying to give his message to Noah.
So verse 5 says, and Noah did all that the Lord commanded him. So we go back to what was Noah? It was righteous, everything else, and every single time. Oh, sorry, you had something.
I want to say righteous.
Oh, okay. But he was everything that pretty much God, as far as that God needed, as far as him to see pretty much that he was righteous, right? And he never questioned him, not once. So if you go back and think about what it is, like how do you are supposed to follow God, right, and follow Jesus through everything, and that's pretty much like you don't question anything. You just take what it is and you just keep, going forward with it as far as, and that's what Noah was doing. He wasn't questioning anything that God was telling him as far as when it came to how to build the ark, how to get your family into them, how to get all these animals. Didn't question any of it. So, all right, next. So, here we go. So, this right here, we're going to read it, and then we'll kind of just talk about it a little bit afterwards. Okay, so does anybody actually want to read it real quick? Just going to pick right here. Oh, Perla wants to do it. All right, go, Perla.
Oh, yeah. We haven't heard Perla read.
Noah was 600 years old when the flood waters came on the earth. And Noah and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives entered the ark to escape the waters of the flood. Pairs of clean and unclean animals, of birds and all of creatures that move along the ground, male and female, came to Noah and entered the ark as God had commanded Noah. And after the 7 days, the flood waters came on the earth.
So what is this doing? What is all of 6 through 10 doing? Not a trick question.
When Noah was 600
This is right back to it.
It's just the process of like when they were entering.
Yeah, it's just a quick summary again. Like, hey, this is everything we've covered so far. Like, this is how old Noah was when it's gonna happen. This is what they're supposed to do as far as to get in there. Right before the flood happens, we talk about again the clean and unclean animals. Talking about the birds. Talking about male and female as far as they're going in pairs. Right. This is all just another summary. And why is it giving us a summary? We're about to get to the next page, and it's pretty much kind of tell you like, all right, take a breather. Something's about to happen right now, right? So it's just trying to get you ready for the next thing, right? So I just brought this one back up again because we're talking about pretty much like how old was Noah, and so you can see the line right there where it says the flood. There's a line, right? So who's alive still from back then? So it looks like Adam's already passed away. Seth has passed away. All of those people have passed away. Only person that's still pretty much alive is and it looks like he's about to and then you got Noah and you got his son that's alive right now. So out of the line that goes down to pretty much Joseph and all the way to pretty much Adam to Joseph, we only have 2 people in this line alive right now, or 3 people alive right now. No, I don't think so. I think it's pretty much that they just picked this guy. Yeah, he's 30 old. Yeah, man. I don't know. They didn't say it in the Bible. Can't question it. I'm just kidding. Huh? I don't know. Right before? Yeah. He saw the flood waters come, and I don't know.
So you said
Yeah, about to go.
So you said 3 people. Which one were the 3? Noah?
Right here. And then you have Noah and then his son.
Oh, okay. Okay, I see.
His son's not going to be alive yet until the flood's over, right? Yeah, so just a quick thing to want to kind of show you guys, that's all. Interesting, maybe not. Yeah, but this is the line, though. The line that's going down to Joseph. So the other son, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so here we go. Yes, sir. Which one?
I'm reading at the bottom. What is it from? It's kind of like I was reading if it
Yeah.
kind of answers like her question.
So you can read it real quick, or?
Yeah.
So it's the you need glasses. Okay, so the Torah is the first 5 books, right? That most Christians call the Bible: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. The Torah is commonly mistranslated as the Bible, as the law is simply the instructions that the Father has given the people to be kept forever for all generations. Other common misconceptions is that Jesus, Yeshua, came to do away with the Torah, the law, and free us from the bondage contained within. Actually, all throughout the Old Testament, we see that the authors refer to the Torah as the way, the truth, the life, and freedom. Jesus, Yeshua, in fact, was a Messiah who came to do away without transgression. With our transgressions against God's Torah, while also being the perfect example, showing us how to follow and keep God's Torah. Yep. hmm When we fall short, His grace catches us. Yes, catches us. Yeah. Yes, the new covenant is in the place.
But for a true believer.
But yeah, true believer, the Torah is to be written
In
on our hearts.
for free. Never
No,
mind.
Daisy.
Sorry.
She's like, for free. This is written in the
For a
bottom
free
line."
download. Oops. That wasn't part
Okay.
of it.
Copyright.
Yeah, watch out, dude. Cut it out. All right, so we're good. Okay, so next one. This is probably the last one we're gonna read real quick, and then actually, we have a little bit more. Yeah, we have a little more.
We're on.
No, we're gonna do. I think last one's probably be like verse 15, and I think you're still. I think it's what, like 21. I think.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Okay, so who wants to read this one? Mo.
In the 600th day, 600th year of Noah's life, on the 17th day of the second month, on that all the springs of the great deep.
That day.
What? Oh,
that
on that day. What'd I say? Okay, whatever. On that day, all the springs of the great deep burst forth, and the floodgates of the heavens were opened, and rain fell on the earth 40 days and 40 nights.
Okay, so
I have something to say.
yeah, go for it. I probably did the same thing, but go ahead.
Oh yeah. Does anybody have anything? Does anything
Verse
pop
11
out?
first. Verse 11.
Like, is anything popping?
I'm just kidding.
You're just like,
Like-
number.
What I'm trying to get you to guys see is like, do you see anything that reminds you of Genesis 1, 2, 3? Uh huh.
I got one.
What other one?
Well, not that one, but it's something you talked about before, though.
Day and night.
The heavens were open.
The what?
The heavens were open. You talked about it before.
Yeah.
Said that.
Yeah.
Hey, I said it first.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry.
So,
Sorry. She's like about to whack her in the face.
but no, the great deep,
Yeah.
the great deep is also part of Genesis 1, I
Yeah.
think.
Mm-hmm.
When it's at the very beginning, yeah, he's talking about how like I can't remember either. Yeah, but it's it's the first. Go ahead, go Christian.
Okay, so the first thing I actually want to talk about was the heavens were opening. Daisy talked about. Oh yeah, sorry, open. So Daisy talked about this before, where it's actually like trying to talk about the heavens. She actually had a picture which I brought in right here.
I mean, it's again. I go back to like this isn't like what, like.
Oh, okay, yeah. Need pictures.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. Go for it.
No, I was just saying like this is remember just kind of to help us understand. We don't really know if this is how like they were trying to interpret, but it kind of helps. It makes us understand a little bit of what they were seeing or what they viewed.
Yeah, and so I think on this one you actually have the windows in the heavens on the top left, where it shows these little small like openings, right? And they're pretty much trying to reference like how you actually could see certain things, right? You could see, what was it, Daisy? I think you talked about last time where somebody actually looked up and actually saw one of the angels kind of up there.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's
By the
certain things.
window?
Yeah, but this one's actually talking about how there was an opening and actually water came out from that opening. So it's kind of like, go ahead. For what?
Oh
Yeah, go for it. Go for it. I was like, I thought you were trying to like talk into like a microphone. I was like, hey, we don't have that one in our mixer.
But yeah, where were we?
This right here.
Does that make sense? Like the floodgates? Because it goes back to the creation of day 2 where he separated the waters from the waters.
Waters in the waters, man. Skies in the skies. Yep, yep.
Yeah.
Over and over.
Okay.
You got it? You want me to wait for you? Or you want me to keep going? Okay, so talked about chapter 11. Now we're going to chapter 12. We talked about.
Verse.
Oh, sorry. Yep. We skipped it. I skipped it all the way. Okay, Edina's got something. See, I messed up on purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Genesis 1, verse 6, it says, "And God said, let there be a vault between the waters to separate water from water. So God made the vault and separated the water under the vault and the water above it, and it was so." And that's where that picture came in when we were studying it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just wanted to.
Point it out. No,
So
that's good.
basically, the vault opens so the water from the vault could come into the earth.
Right. Because I think we've seen where like rain will be like for like a while, and in certain places it's like Seattle, it's always raining in Seattle, right? But it never gets like flooded where it's like a lot of water and it kills people. So there had to be some sort of ¿cómo se dice? Algo sobrenatural.
Supernatural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay.
So the other thing, right, what I talked about was actually in verse 12. Sorry. And it's about pretty much how long the rain fell for 40 days and 40 nights. Right? So we're going to cover that real quick. Right? But I asked you guys, if you guys could name certain times that happened as far as what is 40. What? Walking around in 40? Jesus did what? 40 years in the desert. Jesus in the 40 days as far as fasting. Yep. Tempted by, as far as devils being out there walking around. What else is there?
Jonah?
Jonah? What did Jonah do?
Isn't it the 40 days? No, it's 3. No, no, like 40 days that it took for them to destroy the city. Can't remember.
Oh, when God said in 40 days I'll destroy you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. See?
Yeah.
Huh?
Anything
Thanks,
else you guys
Vanessa.
have? It's okay if you guys don't. I'll just keep going.
Okay.
Gigi, you got something?
No.
Okay, go ahead. All right.
I'm thinking.
Keep thinking. She can't look it up. No, you can't look it up.
It's because I'm not sure.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Eric. Who's got the mic? Okay, that's fine.
So you're saying there's a common theme in these numbers?
Yes.
Yeah.
40.
40 is destruction. Is that what you're saying?
No.
Oh, yeah,
We'll
right.
get there. We'll get there. Just straight. Yeah, just straight. Falling apart there. Okay, we're going to keep going.
Destroying
Okay.
the human body.
And I wanted to give more examples.
You want to keep? Okay, keep going. Keep going. Okay. Yeah, I have tons. Yeah.
Bro.
He
I
looked it up
studied,
already.
obviously.
40 represents
Okay,
time between an ending and a beginning.
Sure.
that's the answer.
Sure.
That's not, I mean, it makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah. Huh? It is has to do with pretty much what 40 represents, but thank you. Thanks, Vanessa. Okay, so the meaning of 40, right? So it's mentioned 146 times in the scripture. The number 40 generally symbolizes a period of testing, trial, or probation. During Moses' life, he lived for 40 years in Egypt and those 40 years in the desert before God selected him to lead the people out of slavery. So he was in this probation period after he did what? He murdered somebody.
Murdered an Egyptian.
Do you guys remember? So right, it wasn't like, hey, murdered somebody, he went out, and then right away God plucked him and said, hey, I'm going to take you. No, he was in this period as far as of testing, trial, and probation, right? So here's the next one, right? So Moses was also on Mount Sinai for 40 days and 40 nights on 2 separate occasions receiving God's law. He also sent spies for 40 days to investigate the land God promised the Israelites as to inherit, all right? And so who were those people?
Caleb.
Yep, Caleb and, yep. No, Joshua, yeah. Okay, and the next one, okay, so the prophet Jonah, Daisy,
Uh-huh.
powerfully warned the ancient Nineveh for 40 days, and that its destruction would come because of its many sins. The prophet Ezekiel laid on his right side for 40 days to symbolize Judah's sins.
What does that mean?
Do you guys not know?
He laid down on his, he fell asleep on his right side every night. That's how I
It's pretty weird, right? I'm finding that was a weird one. All right. Yeah.
guys, we're gonna read Ezekiel.
Yeah. All right.
I lay down for like 5 hours and like once I starts hurting, I don't know.
Not even an hour. Like,
Yeah.
All right, so here we go. So Elijah went 40 days without food or water to Mount Oreb.
Orb.
Jesus was tempted by the devil many times during this 40 days, completing his fasting just before his ministry began. That's actually an interesting one. So 40 days he was out there being tested before his ministry began. So it's kind of like, could he actually lead a ministry?
No.
Well, first, go figure out if he can go fasting for 40 days to figure that
and
one
be
out.
tempted.
Yeah. So here we go. So he also appeared to his disciples and others for 40 days after resurrecting from the dead. So here's the last one. So the Bible was also written by 40 different people. I know you said no, because it tries to say it's 36, but it's actually 4 more. So.
Wait, what?
Because it says like how many people actually wrote the Bible, and
Oh,
right away it's the
that's what
first thing
we're
that comes
looking
up
at?
in Google says 36 people wrote it. But if you actually go look at it, it's
Where
actually
did the other 4 come from? Or like, why did Google give it like that?
I don't know honestly. It tries to bring up something else. I looked at it too, and I was like, why did it say that? Because I wanted to go back to try to make sure this actually was correct, and I looked at every single one of those things, and I was like, oh yeah, it is. It's kind of weird. I don't know why it's doing that. Right. Yeah. And then so last part says those called of God are now under probation or judgment based on how they live by every word of God, just like us.
So we're on probation?
Maybe. But I'm pretty sure we are. Everything. I
Okay.
mean, God's always watching us regardless. So
Interesting.
so does 40 now mean something to you guys? Okay.
It's the number for testing or probation
Mm-hmm.
or judgment.
Yeah. Like how long can somebody actually withstand pretty much 40 days, right?
So maybe we have a like a time period in our lives, I guess. Not necessarily like 4 days, but it could be like 40 hours, 40 minutes.
40 seconds, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Is this why people celebrate their 40 birthdays? So big.
I thought it was.
I thought everybody just I think yeah, it's just
Yeah,
like
it's
50
50.
because they're pretty close on the end there. Yeah. It's like the midlife crisis almost, I guess. It's just like, I'm still in it. I'm still in it.
That's your probation.
Yeah, yeah.
Say that to your mom.
You should.
She's like, what?
I'm gonna call her and be like, so how's your over probation?
Okay, so with that, we'll stop right there. We'll read this one real quick and then see if you guys have questions on this section here real quick. Okay?
Still on
The ham?
Ham.
All right.
Oh, ham.
Just because you said no. Pass the mic over.
And you give me the long one too.
Hey, should have been the beginning.
Okay. Okay. Alright, hold on. Okay. On that very day, Noah and his sons, Shem, Ham,
Yep.
and Japheth, together with his wife and the wives of his 3 sons, entered the ark. They had with them every wild animal according to its kind, all livestock according to their kinds, every creature that moves along the ground according to its kind, and every bird according to its kind, everything with wings. Pairs of all creatures that have the breath of life in them come to Noah and entered the ark. The animals going in were male and female, and every living thing as God had commanded Noah. Then the Lord shut him in.
Do you guys see anything in there?
Yeah,
You,
see
you saying good job to yourself? Right, Daisy?
Anything catches? Some stuff caught my eye.
Anything catch you guys' eyes?
Repetitiveness again.
Wild animals?
It's kind. It's kind. Like repetitive as far as like going back to Genesis 1, 2, and 3.
Oh.
I'm serious. Look, read it. It says according a lot.
Yeah.
Animals.
It's true. I'll give you
It's-
that one.
Yeah, it's close. You're close. Anybody else see anything? It's not necessarily within this section. Again, it goes back to Genesis.
Oh, their kind.
Yeah.
Kind, according to their kind, according to their
No,
kind,
no, no.
according to their kind.
Remember what we were saying?
What is this?
Well, like remember when in the first couple of like this is what caught my eye. In the first couple of verses that we read again in creation is the wild animal,
According to their kind.
livestock,
According to their kind.
and then everything that moves along the ground, and every bird. So
According to its kind.
But yeah, so it goes back to like, again, the Bible's very repetitive with what they're like, like their wordings, and so here you see it again. It's like this stuff again, repeating again from Genesis, and then 15, and anything on chapter on verse 15.
The breath of life.
Yep.
What does that mean? Like they just have to be alive?
No, remember we talked about it. What is it? What is it?
No.
Ruach.
God's
How do
breath.
you know that those animals
We'll talk about it later. We'll talk about it next time. But what was your question?
like animals that are alive, like that's literally what it is. But like, I'm just making it more complicated.
Okay.
What's interesting?
Yeah. Just want to kind of
Like
talk about
is
that.
there, like how did Noah? That's Noah, right? Okay.
See? Yeah.
I thought I was wrong and I was gonna correct myself to Jonah. But what was my question again? Oh, how did Noah know? Like what two animals to get? They came to him.
Yeah, you told me.
You said it before. Yeah. So okay, so the animals already knew.
Okay, marching.
The ants don't freaking laugh.
I already knew it.
Wait, did he get insects?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it moved really more. She's like, that's not what I was gonna say. I know.
Just like stayed on that S for a while.
I'm like, yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. Hold on to it forever. But yeah, just something to think about as far as, even like, when it comes to you guys talking about the breath of life and everything else. We kind of talked about last time when it came to like, what's the breath of life? How are you actually alive? What makes you alive? And we kind of talked about before, one part of you is flesh, right? Which is just your bones and your meat and everything else. The other part is the spirit. And so when it comes to animals too, when God created them, what was it that separated animals from humans? You remember? What separated it? Okay. But yeah, just FYI.